listening to the Friday Five here on the Agent Survival Guide podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Ruppel, and this is our weekly list of 5 things that you should know about. Today is February 20th. Here in Pennsylvania, we've been experiencing quite the heat wave, which means that our temperatures have been in the 50s this week, rather than the bone-chilling single-digit temperatures we had been having for a while there. I'm hoping that this warmer weather sticks around because, truth be told, I'm ready for spring right now, and we've still got 1 month until the calendar makes it official. We will start out our list this week at number 5 with a quick update on a story we reported on 2 weeks ago: the rise of 2 TikTok replacement apps, Skylight and Upscrolled. Only one of those had made it into the top apps list, and that was only in the Apple App Store. 2 weeks later, now that users have had some time to scroll around on their feeds a little bit, it seems like many have returned and may even be re-downloading the app. In the iOS App Store, TikTok is back in the top 20 for both top overall apps and photo and video apps. Over on the Google Play Store, TikTok is in the top 10 for overall apps and the top 5 for social apps. Upscrolled is maintaining its presence at number 25 on the Google Play Store social apps list, but it has fallen out of all the others, and Skylight has not charted at all. In my personal experience, I did notice a blip in content when the switchover happened, and a day or two of some really wonky videos showing up in my TikTok feed. But that all seems to have evened out for me, and judging by those rankings, it seems that things have evened out for other users as well. Moving on to number 4. Some interesting news, especially for our friends who listen to their podcasts through Apple's podcast app. On Monday, Apple announced plans to add a video component to the app. In their official release, Apple stated, quote, "Users can watch video from within the app and move to horizontal full display, as well as download videos to watch offline," end quote. If that description sounds familiar, it's because that's pretty much how YouTube works on mobile devices. Adding video capabilities not only lets Apple compete with YouTube, it matches similar moves made by Spotify and, more recently, Netflix. And then to also match the business models of YouTube, Spotify, Netflix, and other tech companies, Apple plans to allow creators to run ads on video podcasts, which, of course, Apple would get a portion of the profits, just like ads on other digital platforms. Video has started to become synonymous with podcasting, which is an interesting trend. And it does make sense given the rise in popularity of video on social media and the increasing ease of and accessibility to video production. Love it as an option, maybe even something we could do in the future. But I do think there's still space for audio podcasts because you can listen while you're doing other tasks. And of course, there's the audio fiction lover in me that will always appreciate hearing the story, and I just love being able to imagine the visuals on my own. Video on Apple Podcasts is currently available for beta testing on 26.4 beta versions of iOS, iPadOS, and Vision OS. Apple claims the feature is coming this spring, but no word so far on an exact date. Number 3. Typically, when we talk about products here on the ASG podcast, they are related to insurance or health. But this one, this is one that I came across when I woke up on Wednesday around 1 a.m. and could not get back to sleep. It grabbed my attention, so now we're going to talk about it here on the podcast. Tide recently announced the launch of their Evo detergent. It's not a liquid, it's not a powder, and it's not a pod. It's made out of fiber, knit closely together in a square shape, and they're calling it a tile. Like a pod, you toss it into the washer prior to filling it with clothes, and the water will completely dissolve it. And tiles were designed to dissolve completely in cold water as well, which is a pretty cool feature. And then anyone who has had to keep kids away from colorful pods can probably appreciate the switch to something a bit less interesting looking. There's also an eco-friendly aspect here, because the tiles are packaged in cardboard rather than plastic. Packaging looks like it takes up much less space, and it likely weighs less as well. So if I'm comparing this to bulky detergent bottles or the tubs that pods come in, which, let's face it, those are notoriously awkward to hold, Tide Evo tiles look like an interesting new product for a lot of different reasons, and I think a lot of people will at least try them out. Whether or not they stick around, well, that depends on how well they clean. Tiles are currently available online for pre-order, with plans to launch in stores on April 4th. I might have a box on pre-order on its way to my house as soon as it releases as we speak. And while, no, this has nothing to do with insurance or really healthcare, it is a fun new thing that caught my attention, and it's not a bad something new to add to your client newsletters. Number 2, earlier this month, KFF published the findings of an interesting study on the top burdens U.S. adults face when trying to access healthcare. So, not just Medicare, not just ACA, but combined, insured adults across the board. 15% of respondents said that their single biggest burden was finding providers that would accept their insurance. 17% of respondents said that their biggest healthcare burden came along with their bill, understanding it, and what they owed to whom. 19% struggled with getting appointments when they needed them. And then 34% said their biggest burden was dealing with prior authorization, needing to get that insurance approval prior to getting certain tests, treatments, surgeries, or medications. KFF also went into each of those answers to have respondents identify whether it was a major burden, a minor burden, or not a burden at all. All of those categories represented either a major or minor burden for 53 to 69% of respondents. Add to that the fact that the Wiser model brought prior auth to traditional Medicare in 6 states beginning this year, and the current administration's focus on transparency in pricing, coding, and cutting down on government waste. I don't know about you, but I've been spending quite a bit of time reading and thinking about prior authorization. As agents, there's not a whole lot we can do to speed up an insurance carrier's decision. And there's also a limit to what we can do in response to government initiatives. But I like to focus on what we can do. And that's why we recommend educating your clients as you're walking them through enrollment. Taking the time to educate your clients so they understand how their plan works, what they can and can't expect from it, as well as being available to answer their questions. That is one of the best, most proactive ways to get ahead of potential problems like this. No, we don't have the power to predict the services your client will need in the future. It would be cool if we did, but we can make sure to cover information like where to find the most updated version of their provider directory and which services will require prior authorization. Couple other interesting tidbits in that KFF study. We will be linking to that in the notes, as well as their assessment of the Medicare Wiser model. And coming in at number 1, we've got your official invite to attend Craig Ritter's 2026 State of the Senior Market Address on March 5th, beginning at 2 p.m. Craig Ritter is the CEO and co-founder of Ritter Insurance Marketing, the FMO that powers this podcast. And we have great news that this year, his State of the Senior Market is completely virtual. So no matter where you live, no matter how far that happens to be from our headquarters in Pennsylvania, you can attend and hear what Craig has to say. During this event, Craig talks about the previous year at Ritter Insurance Marketing. So we'll be hearing all about 2025 at Ritter. He'll dig into current enrollment trends and statistics to give you a snapshot of where the industry is at. Craig will cover Medicare legislation and regulations that are in the works, but not quite final. And then he rounds out the whole presentation by dusting off his crystal ball and talking about what the future might hold from his perspective in the industry. Highly recommend registering and attending. Craig Ritter has history in the industry and a wealth of information to share. That is why so many of us look forward to this presentation each year. And some of us, not naming any names, just might be munching on popcorn and furiously taking notes while listening. And full disclosure, yes, Craig Ritter is our CEO, so you might think that I'm biased. I would probably say, yeah, that might be true. But the numbers don't lie, and we have seen an uptick in registrations this year that suggest many of you agree with me. In fact, we actually surpassed our initial capacity for this event. So much so that a few agents reached out last week because they were having trouble registering. Thank you so much for reaching out and letting us know. The great thing about holding this event online is that, for one, we don't have to worry about fire codes, so we don't have to limit registration. We can continue to add registrations with the waitlist function. That enables us to still collect registration information so we can email out a link prior to the event starting, and you will still be able to watch and learn. So if you were one of those agents who was having trouble getting registered last week, everything should be up and running, so go ahead, send in those registrations. The date, again, for Craig's State of the Senior Market presentation is Thursday, March 5th, beginning at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We have the link to register in our episode notes, along with the other resources we mentioned in our episode today. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I hope you have a great weekend. Stay healthy and stay safe out there, and we will see you next week. The Agent Survival Guide podcast is a production of Ritter Insurance Marketing, an integrity company. This episode was written and produced by me, Sarah Ruppel. Script editing and fact check by Emily Ryan. Podcast design by Urban Rivera. Like what you hear? Follow along with our show wherever you get your podcasts.